Okay, so you guys already know what this video is about, so allow me to run through a few cliched lines just to get it out of my system. It's raining EVs in the Indian market. If EVs are the future is already here. The time for EVs is now, and it's the end of the internal combustion engine. Big statements that have varying degrees of truth or exaggeration to them. However, if you look at the Indian car market, most sales come for vehicles that are priced below rupees 18 to 20 lakh. Yet, if we look at most EV launches, they've happened in above that price point. For example, if you look at the MG ZS EV or the Hyundai Kona, they're priced in the 20s, or the Mercedes EQC and Audi e-tron, which are priced north of rupees 1 crore. The first car to truly deliver on the promise of giving us a usable mass market electric car was the Tata Nexon EV. So, Tata has a formula that works, they've had the time to polish things out, and now they're ready to make things even more affordable. So let's review the Tata Tigor EV together. And I do mean reviewed together. I feel like if you come and experience what happens on one of our reviews, you'll get a good idea of why we can figure out a decent bit about what a car is going to be like to live with in a short span of time. So the time is about 6:40 AM, the charge is at 100% and the range says 256 kilometers. We're on our way to the shoot location, so I'll see you there.
So why do a review this way? Well, on average, first drives like this give us about 6 to 8 hours with any car, in which we have to get a whole set of photos, get static videos, action videos, test the car through traffic, open roads, good roads, bad roads, analyze the car accurately, build a script so all of this makes sense to you, and of course, deliver our pieces to camera. Through all of this, every media car exchanges multiple hands and goes through the most inefficient driving possible, and for a long duration at that. So we effectively simulate a sort of worst case for an electric car's range and get an idea of what the baseline range could be and what it'll be like as a daily driver in more caring and careful hands.
Alright, so we've reached our shoot location now. I think we've driven about 25 to 30 kilometers, but we had to do our action photography on the way. So a lot of quick driving, switch it to sport mode, so we've lost a decent amount of range. In fact, I think we've dropped to 82% battery charge and about 190 kilometers of range displayed right now. So we're going to begin with our static photo shoot. So let's talk about how the car looks. Well, it's the Tigor EV, so that style back design is still very much there, and it's not like you're going to confuse it with anything else. What's happened is that with the facelift, the front end looks a lot sharper, more grown up, but the Tigor's pull in terms of design has always been with the side profile and the rear. That swooping roof and the way it just ends in that really stubby boot, it definitely makes the Tigor EV look like the most offbeat subcompact sedan. But of course, there are some differences that are specific to the EV, and it goes beyond just the blue hues. But let's start there.
There's blue EV badging all around the car, there's a big blue bit of trim underneath the front grille, and the halogen projector headlights, actually not grille, it is more a grille panel with a slit. You'll see more of the blue around the fog lamps, and the LED DRLs are there too. Unusual placement of DRLs, gotta say, but a nice inclusion.
And then there are these 14-inch hyper style wheels, which in Tata speak is basically, we won't give you alloy wheels, but we'll try to make you not miss them. So yeah, even if you do get the top end version of the Tigor EV, you're still getting 14-inch steel wheels. If you get the regular Tigor, that does get 15-inch alloy wheels on the top spec XZ Plus trim. Now these wheels have got this blue hue to denote the electric powertrain on one particular section, which on the move kind of makes it look like there's a fidget spinner on the tire.
Also, you have two color options here, teal blue and Daytona grey, so no white, silver or red like the regular Tigor. And there's another difference you need to keep in mind.
First of all, this thing doesn't take fuel, obviously, and when it comes to your charge options, you have two. Now the first one is what you're going to be relying on primarily, especially if you want to ensure good battery longevity, and that is your home charging. With that, 0 to 80% takes about 8 hours 45 minutes and 0 to 100% takes about 9 hours 45 minutes. And you also have DC fast charging. That is something you need to be using periodically, not all the time. And with that, 0 to 80% takes about an hour, say 65 minutes. Now, let's move to the boot. Now, one of the biggest redeeming factors for the Tigor was its boot space, but that has seen a change with the introduction of Tigor EV because the spare tire has moved up over here, vertically placed. Why is that? That's because the battery pack and the associated components have been moved into the spot where the fuel tank would have been, and that has also eaten up some of the depth that the boot would have had. So yeah, you can fit in a decent amount of luggage still. Large trolley bags shouldn't be an issue, but full-size suitcases will be a little bit of a squeeze. It's one of those challenges that come up with adapting a petrol or diesel car to become an EV as opposed to building an EV from scratch. But one place where it does enjoy the same benefits as the regular Tigor is the cabin. It's a very roomy, spacious and airy cabin, and you can fit in people who are 6 foot tall, one behind the other, quite easily. Of course, it may not look like it when I am in the frame because I am both 6'5" and fat. But look, even I have a decent amount of headroom to spare. And that rear seat, yes, it's a subcompact sedan, but if you are of an average build, you can fit in 3 people in the back quite easily with a nice and supportive backrest to boot, along with an armrest as well. But it also shares the same cabin plastics as the regular Tigor. So these hard and scratchy plastics that you see all around, and even some of the alignments of the plastic which aren't quite good. This is something we had seen even with the first drive of the regular Tigor, not really been fixed right now. But that would have been acceptable in a car that's priced at rupees 7 to 8 lakh like the regular Tigor. But when you've got something that costs about 11 lakh rupees even with subsidies, it starts to feel like this cabin quality should have been better. That upgrade from the regular Tigor to the Tigor EV, that's not something you're going to see. And this is the same price point at which you could get something that feels better, more richer on the inside, like the Hyundai i20 or even the Tata Altros.
Even the features list is nothing exceptional. It's just right. The highlights are the 7-inch touchscreen with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It's actually smoother to use than the Safari's infotainment system and is accompanied by that excellent 8-speaker music system. There are also nice inclusions like push-button start with a smart key, auto AC and a digital instrument cluster which has a nice game-like interface to it. Finally, there's connected car tech with the Z Connect app, which facilitates geofencing, live car tracking, and remote operations of the AC lights and door locks, among other features. But most importantly, Tata's maintained the Tigor's 4-star global NCAP crash safety rating even with the EV. And the safety package includes 2 airbags, ABS with EBD, rear parking sensors, and a rear camera. The resolution of the rear camera, though, is not the best.
Alright, now it's time for us to see what this thing is like to drive, and I'm not going to get into all the stuff that the spec sheet is going to tell you anyway. We are right now heading out to go ahead and get our tracking and action shots. This is basically all the shots you're going to see of the car on the road. And this is why media cars hate us, because this period is when we put any given car through the most inefficient driving imaginable, because it involves a lot of rapid acceleration, catching up to the car, braking really hard, slowing down again, cruising, matching the speed. So it's very erratic, and usually in petrol or diesel cars we do this in 2nd or 3rd gear and we're pushing the cars all the way through the rev range. So you can imagine what this kind of driving is going to do through an electric car's range. Alright, so I'm going to try and catch up with my tracking car now, and I'm in the regular drive mode. But even if I absolutely pin the throttle, 45, 47, 48, 50, 52, 53. It's quick, but it's picking up the pace gradually. It's not in the big rush. It's not giving you any of that, typical terms that they use like instant torque delivery that's violent and exciting from the word go. None of that is happening in the regular drive mode. It's progressive, it's gradual, it's linear, very new car driver friendly. And this is the ideal mode you'd want for regular city commutes done calmly. You can even manage like regular low speed overtakes in this, and it's a nice and relaxing mode to have for daily commutes. But absolutely all of that changes the second you shift to sport mode. It just turns into a different beast altogether. It's like the spirit of the Tigor GTP lives on through the Tigor EV. The acceleration is instant, and if you go on even a mild corner and go on the throttle just a little bit hard, you're going to get wheel spin quite easily. So you need to be careful about that, especially if you're an amateur driver. But otherwise, it's just so much fun, and this is the kind of thing that can even sell the most hardened petrol head on an electric car. And of course, you do have brake energy regeneration with this car, but The good thing is that the mode is never actually intrusive and it's barely noticeable in fact. Like the Nexon, you don't have configurable modes over here, so it's not like you can set how much regen you're going to get, but it is dependent on the throttle input and speed. But the deal is that I could pin the throttle right now, let go immediately, and it's not like it's suddenly getting into regen or there's some kind of shift in the driving behavior. It feels very natural, no different than the kind of resistance you'd get from a transmission anyway, which is a good thing because it just becomes so much easier to adapt to the driving style of a car like this, which could potentially be the first electric car that a lot of you would own. The one thing that you will have to get used to though is the brake pedal. It doesn't really have any feel, so it's kind of tricky to figure out how much braking input you need to be dialing in initially. You can figure it out in a matter of like 5-6 kilometers once you spend enough time with the car. But yeah, there's no feedback or communication from the brake pedal, so you just need to figure out that behavior a little bit, and it's a very common trait of a lot of electric cars.
How does it ride? Well, the EV is about 200 kilograms heavier than the standard Tigor and uses a slightly stiffer tune of the same suspension setup. Not that it's taken a toll on ride though. Even now, the Tigor gets through rough roads without a fuss and handles potholes with ease while feeling planted even at highway speeds.
Even in the back seat, at low speeds you can feel some amount of vertical jumpiness. There's a slight amount of it, but as soon as you pick up the pace and cross like even 40 kilometers an hour, it's good, nice and planted, very compliant all over again. Alright, so we're done with our shoot for the day, and the final charge and range that we're at when we get back to the hotel, I'll have that posted somewhere down over here. But realistically with a car like this, you're looking at a real world range of about 200 kilometers, give or take 20 kilometers. But that makes it a really great package for in-city use, provided you know you can conveniently charge up either at home or at your workplace. Long distance trips are doable, but not without planning. With the exception of boot space, the Tigor EV offers everything we liked about the Tigor, including the cabin space, the decent features list, the comfortable ride quality, and even the likable styling, while offering a much smoother and in sport mode even more exciting drive experience. Just 4 to 5 years ago, an entry-level EV was the Mahindra E20 Plus, which was a commendable first effort but a very hard sell. The fact that an entry-level EV is now something this competent is a great sign of things to come. So the pressure is now on you, Tata. You've had the time to get your learnings from the Nexon EV and apply them to the Tigor EV to make sure that this experience is as niggle-free as possible. Because when it comes to selling people on electric cars, there's a lot of arguments you need to make pertaining to the charging infrastructure, the range, the resale value, the cost benefits, and even emissions. But it takes just one thing to go wrong for people to become skeptical again.